All right, everyone. Happy Saturday morning. If you are listening live on K-Hits Radio in Newhall, California, which is hometownstations.com, AM 1220. And welcome to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We're going to talk cars this morning, and we've got some interesting things to talk about today, Kelly.
Hi, guys. So I have some news. It's BMW news, which is my favorite, I would say. The all-new 2024 BMW 5 Series is gearing up for a grand debut in the final quarter of 2023. One of the additions to the lineup is the brand new all-electric i5. The i5 has a zippy 335 horsepower in the eDrive 40 model. This rear-wheel drive wonder offers an impressive 295-mile range, ensuring that you won't be left in the lurch when adventure calls. And for those who crave even more power, the i5 xDrive M60 is the answer. This all-wheel drive dynamo boasts a heart-pounding 590 horsepower, rocketing you from 0 to 60 miles an hour in just 3.7 seconds. With a range of 256 miles, it's a thrill seeker's dream. But that's not all. The iconic M5 is making a comeback in hybrid form, promising more horsepower than ever before. This powerhouse is set to hit the roads in 2024, featuring a potent twin-turbo 4.4-liter V8 combined with an auxiliary electric motor. Brace yourself for an astonishing 790 horsepower and a whopping 737 pounds of torque.
All right, so there you go. The new 5 Series is coming out very soon, and that leads us into today's featured marque, Kelly. And today's featured marque is BMW. In a few minutes, we're going to be joined by NASCAR legend Boris Said. Boris is also a BMW dealer in Marietta, California. He's partners with Rick Hendrick. But yeah, that's interesting on the new BMW. It seems like there's a trend, like with the M5 and the new Corvette. We talked about the Corvette, our featured marque last week. Seems like there's a trend now to go hybrid, kind of like the Formula One cars. And it offers a lot of, it does offer a lot of horsepower by adding that second motor, but I don't know, the purist in me doesn't love this idea. How do you feel as being someone from the younger generation? Do you care? Do you like the hybrid? Do you prefer battery power, or do you just prefer old-fashioned combustion engine?
I actually like the hybrid idea. I mean, if they're going to go electric, at least it's a hybrid, so you got like kind of a combo. I think it could be fun, you know? I'm excited to see. I love BMW. I'm excited to see what they have in store for us coming up. It's interesting to see how they're competing with everybody in the like electric sort of market. I like that they're not offering only electric or only gas. Like there's both. That's cool about the hybrid.
I agree. And along the lines of the M5, it is going to be a twin turbocharged 4.4-liter V8 with the auxiliary electric motor, as we talked about. And there's no official horsepower number yet, but they're talking in between 718 horsepower and 790 horsepower, which will make it by far the fastest and most powerful M5 yet. But yeah, also, one of the things that's going to be cool is they are offering an M5 touring wagon, and that's something that we haven't seen in a long time stateside. The touring wagon, it started nearly 50 years ago with the M5 wagon, and now it's super, super collectible. But yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I mean, 790 horsepower and 740 pounds of torque. What do you think of that?
That's pretty awesome. I'm wondering how that's going to translate to like racing when it comes to like all of the different car brands all deciding to go electric. I wonder if they're going to start doing more like electric racing and stuff, which is, I don't know how I feel about that. That'd be interesting to hear everybody whirring past instead of driving past with the engine sounds.
Yeah, no, I agree. They have gone into the hybrid era, of course, in Formula One. We're going to talk a little bit of Formula One later. And they've got into the hybrid era in the Le Mans cars. It hasn't really made its way down to full sports car racing yet, like the IMSA GT classes. So yeah, you're right. Interesting. I mean, the cars are going to be a little heavy.
Yeah.
And I think that they're going to have to learn how to deal with that. But the nice thing about the battery and the power is it gives the car very low center of gravity. So the cars handle a lot better. They're just going to be heavier. But what do you think of the performance M5 potential sport wagon? I mean, do you like an M5 in a wagon, or you like more traditional?
I mean, I like keeping it traditional, but I'm kind of excited to see. I feel like BMW always has something fun coming around the corner. There's always some goofy new thing that they're figuring out. And it's kind of an older thing, which is kind of interesting that they would bring it back. I'm not sure what brought that idea to them to bring it back.
I think that, here and there they throw something interesting like that in. It's going to make it a super collector item immediately. If you can find that car with 790 horsepower potentially in a wagon, it's going to be a collector. But all right, well, we are going to get ready for our guest, and that is NASCAR legend Boris Said. Boris is also, since our featured mark today is BMW, as I mentioned, Boris is a BMW owner. He also won the 24 Hours of Nürburgring in BMW. So a pretty storied past. So I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that. Once again, you are joining us here on K-Hits Radio 98.1 on the FM dial in Newhall, California. Also, you can find us on your favorite podcast network. So please join us, and we'll be right back with Boris Said.
Woo!
All right. Well, welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow, available on your favorite podcast platforms and, of course, at KHTS AM 1220 and FM 98.1. You can always find us at hometownstations.com as well. And Charlie, we got our special guest on the line, one very famous, very accomplished, and very nice Boris Said.
And also our featured mark today, BMW. It fits in well. Boris, first of all, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So, Boris, tell us a little bit about how you got involved with BMW, because since our featured mark is BMW, I'm curious how that all came about. Not necessarily the dealership, but BMW racing.
Yeah, I mean, back in 1998 or 1988, when I started racing the Corvette Challenge, there was a team owner, Tom Milner, that had two Corvettes. And eventually, when BMW went back to racing in '95, he became the factory team, PTG Racing. And he remembered me because I bugged him all the time about driving his car, about coming and driving his car. So, I actually drove the first race when they debuted back in 1995 at the 24 Hours, and then raced every race I could after that for a long time.
Oh, that's really funny. You mentioned Corvette Challenge. Last week's featured mark was the Corvette, and we had Tommy Kendall on, and Tommy was talking a little trash, saying that he was mopping up everybody in Corvette Challenge back in '89. I don't know if I believe that.
Well, he was kind of a big deal back then. That's when he was running prototype cars, and he was unbelievable. But when he won his first race in New Jersey, was my first podium. So we're on the podium together. Two tall guys that look like they should be playing basketball, not driving race cars. It looks funny. Yeah, we were only missing Hans Stuck, and it would have been a clean sweep.
And was that Corvette Challenge? That was that the Meadowlands? Was that the IndyCar weekend?
Yeah, it was IndyCar weekend, Trans Am, and Corvette Challenge. And I don't remember who won the IndyCar race, but I remember Hans Stuck and Ali won the Trans Am race. It was a really cool track. There was one corner, if you missed, you were on an on-ramp of the New Jersey Turnpike. Pretty wild place. Yeah.
That's amazing.
You know what? I did have a question for you. Going back a little bit further in your or earlier in your racing career, I saw something. I don't know if it was true or not, about you made a connection with Bob Sharp, and Chris and I are friends with his son Scott. And I'm just curious, is that accurate?
He actually is one that pointed me in the right direction. Way back when, I was actually in 1985, I became the youngest Honda dealer in the United States. And that winter, the winter of '86, there was a huge hurricane that came up the East Coast and wiped out power on everybody. And I was the only person that had generators, because I took a real chance the day before the hurricane and got a bunch of them.
Right.
And I didn't know. I knew who Bob Sharp was because I drove by his dealership. It was about 15 miles up the road. And but I didn't even think about racing or watch it, or I had no interest in it at all. And he came, he asked me, I really need a favor. I need a generator. So I'm like, no problem. I held one aside for him. And then as it turned out, a couple years later, when I went to my first race ever was the Detroit Grand Prix, the Formula One race. And and I ran into Bob Sharp in the paddock, and I remember asking him the stupidest question in the world. I said, he was like, "Hey, why are you here, Boris?" I'm like, "Oh, this Ford guy gave me a trip. It was a dealer trip, blah, 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 blah. Everything's paid for." I go, "I've never been to a car race." I go, "Hey, man, where do I buy a Formula One car? That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." And I mean, he actually took the time to sit me down and say, "You need to start in showroom stock, and you need to get Skip Barber has a driving school at Lime Rock. Go to that." And I was just writing everything down, and that's exactly what I did. A week later, I went to Skip Barber, and that's what started my career. But if he didn't take the time to really sit down after someone asked him the stupidest question in the world and talk to me for a half hour and really taught me about racing, I don't know what I would have done. So I always remember him for that.
That's amazing. It's great to have that kind of mentorship, especially at that very beginning portion of your career. That's really cool. Charlie and I have had a few mentors and continue to have mentors in our lives, and it's an amazing thing to have that kind of guidance, if you will. And are you providing any guidance like that to anyone else in your life?
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to a lot of young drivers along the way. I mean, there's not even too many to list. But it's funny you say that because, I was racing Trans Am, and this kid came up to me, a really fast kid, and he's like, "You don't remember me, do you?" I go, "No." He goes, I actually came into your dealership, 12 years ago, and you talked to me about racing, and gave me all kinds of advice, and I didn't really know anything about it. So there's people that you talk to along the way, and you don't realize how much you touched their life or how much you changed their direction, basically. So yeah, there's been a lot of them. I always try to give back in racing because I asked so many stupid questions, and I didn't really have anybody like that, so I would just ask everybody, and a lot of people helped me along the way.
Yeah, I think we feel the same way. One of your competitors, Greg Pickett, was always good to us, and then ultimately,
great guy. Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, ultimately, our buddy the late great Kevin Kalkoven, who owns the Long Beach Grand Prix, was really influential in our past. But I had a quick question for you. You're talking about mentorship. What is happening with your son Boris Jr.?
Yeah, I mean that's a fun because growing up, of course, when I had a son, I bought him a motorcycle before he could walk. I bought him a go-kart before he could walk. And
as any good dad would do.
He didn't really have an interest in karting or racing. I took him all around the world at racetracks, but I never ever thought like, oh, that's just not his thing. His thing was snowmobiles and skiing and dirt bikes. And I'm like, that's cool. And then like 5 years ago, he goes, "Hey, what about trying go-karting?" And, I used to take him when he was little to K1, but he liked it and he was good at it, but he never asked me to do it. So I didn't push him, and we never really did it that much. And when he tried outdoor karting, he liked it. We bought a kart and we karted for a year and a half, and I didn't know anything about karting. So we got a Miata and started racing in the SCCA, showroom stock racing. And he loves it. That's all he thinks about now, that in his business. But he now he's first year in Trans Am, and so we're having a blast getting to do that together.
Oh, that's so cool. So first year in Trans Am, how did he do in the Miata racing?
I mean, he's still doing it. We're planning on going to the runoffs this year. We're building a new car and headed to the runoffs in about a month. So, he's got a few top fives, but man, that Miata racing is probably the best amateur racing in the world. I mean, those guys are crazy good.
Agreed. It's exciting to watch. We were just up at Sonoma for the United States Touring Car Championship this past weekend, and the Miata guys are out there, and it's always bumper to bumper. I mean, you can barely put a piece of paper between one car and the next. It's pretty exciting stuff. So
yeah, and if you miss a shift or you blow a corner, like 6 guys pass you. So I would think it'd be great training.
I mean, standing on the pit lane at Road America when 85 of those things come out of the grid, you're like, is there this many Miatas in the world? They just keep coming and coming and coming. And, then the fast guys are running bumper to bumper, the whole way around Road America. It's pretty impressive.
Well, you mentioned K1 Speed a few moments ago and taking Boris Jr. there. Now, if I recall correctly, you are very much involved with K1 Speed, the go-kart, indoor go-karting facilities.
Yeah, I mean, back in, 2003, they opened their first one in Carlsbad where I live. And I'm like, man, when they opened it, I was interested. Like, wow, go-karting, how cool is that? And I met them. And, we became friends. When they opened the second one, they asked me if I wanted to invest. So, I invested some money in it. And I've been along the ride the whole way. Now it's, one of the biggest go-kart companies in the world with 67 tracks. And we're just finishing up our first outdoor track. That's the first FIA sanctioned track in North America. It's the ultimate go-karting facility for outdoor, and should be open in about a month. We've had a lot of delays this year with, just different things, but the track is fantastic.
Is that the one?
Running on it a lot.
Is that the one out near Paris? In California?
It's actually in Winchester, just off the 215.
Okay. So for those of you outdoor karters that want to go check that out, I've seen some reports on that online on the news medias, and it looks like it's going to be. I've been excited to see that actually finish because, to your point, it's taken a little bit extra time to get that finished off, and it looks like it's going to be an amazing facility out there off the Winchester Highway in the 15.
Yeah, and Boris,
yeah, I mean, stage one will open, and it'll have Formula One style pit garages. It has a bar, axe throwing, beer garden, stage, concerts, and then our main building just got started, which is right on the front straightaway. It'll be a 2-story building with a restaurant, air conditioning, bathrooms. Not your typical go-kart track where you're sitting in the gravel with a portalet there is the best you got. Facility.
That's pretty funny. And, it sounds like it's going to be a very high class facility, but you mentioned two things that you normally don't put together, and that's alcohol and axe throwing. How do you get a permit for an axe throwing facility?
California, we're liberal out here. We can do anything we want.
I absolutely love it. Well, we have to get El Bandito Yankee Tequila out there.
Oh yeah, for sure. But quick question, Boris. Since BMW is our featured marque today, tell us about winning the 24 Hours of Nürburgring. What year? What car? I'm really curious about that.
Well, it was they invited me to do it in 2003 when they went back to Nürburgring with a factory effort in Schnitzer, and I wanted to go there so bad. It was on my radar, my bucket list. I mean, that 15 miles of road is probably the best road you could ever drive a car on.
Wow.
It's the ultimate bucket list for anybody that likes driving fast. And, I was trying so hard to get BMW, and they were like, no, it's not an American thing. An American can't learn the track. And they were just so negative on it. And then my buddy Hans Stuck, though, we were driving at the time, he talked him into letting me in. So, I got to do 3 years with the factory Schnitzer team. And, I won in 2005 overall. And that was probably one of the highlights of my career, I think. Just me personally, that meant a lot because it was such a daunting task. And the 230 cars in the race, 24 hours, different weather around the track, being all 4 wheels off the ground 3 times a lap. There's just nothing like driving a lap on the limit at Nürburgring. Nothing comes close to it.
Unbelievable. I mean, not like you just said, not only to just drive the track, but then be overall champion. With that many cars on track, I mean, I get nervous when there's 50 cars out on track.
Right. you just think 230 cars trying to get out of the pit lane.
Yeah.
And pitting with 8 cars per pit. It's unbelievable how many different challenges there are on that race than a normal race.
How do you?
And then where the track is, it's a track right in the Ardennes forest where the Battle of the Bulge was fought, and to be an American standing up there, with an afro from California on the victory stand, I mean, Hitler was looking up thinking, man, that's crazy. So I felt really proud to be an American there doing that, where so many American lives were lost, fighting for what we have today.
Oh my God, that's so funny. And you said, this big, tall American guy with this giant afro. Now, I remember back in the day, it became very popular, the Said heads. So everyone had their cardboard Boris Said afros, and they put them on their head. And I actually think I still have one in my garage. And I don't know exactly where that started. I thought it might be Road America, where the first Said head popped up, but
I actually think it was Watkins Glen, NASCAR
makes sense.
Is where it started, and there was always more than anywhere. It was, at first I thought it was kind of creepy, because I'm like, man, Jeff Gordon and Dale Earnhardt Jr., they have all these girls screaming their names, and I have a bunch of 40-year-old guys wearing wigs, drinking, screaming my name. But after a while, I mean, they're just having fun, and I'd probably be doing the same thing, but not for me, for somebody else. But,
Yeah, and
it was pretty neat.
and your is it your business partner in BMW Marietta is a famed race car owner, Rick Hendrick, correct?
Yes, correct.
That's really
And that's
awesome.
something. If you would have told me that 20 years ago that I'd be in partners with Rick Hendrick, I'd told you were on drugs. but yeah, he's been my mentor for the last 12 years in the car business, and he's just been a great, fantastic guy.
And you were a NASCAR road racing specialist. How did that go? Do you ever train any of the famous, any of your teammates? Jimmy Johnson or Jeff Gordon or any of those guys?
I mean, I worked with probably over 30 guys, from Dale Jr. to Carl Edwards, Casey Kane, Kevin Harvick. I mean, just Dale Sr. I mean, a lot of people. So it was fun over the years. And then, one day NASCAR said no more testing, so that ended.
Yeah.
Wow.
And what are you doing? What are you racing these days?
I mean, I retired full time about 4 years ago, but I still race. I still like to race Trans Am and the T1 cars every once in a while, and I'm probably going to do the NASCAR Xfinity race at Charlotte, in October. Just to give it a shot for a guy named Carl Long. But yeah, it's still fun to get out there and drive. But mostly, I like just going with my son and supporting him.
That's got to be its own kind of reward, a special kind of reward. Are you a nervous father spectating, or are you an excited crew chief father when you?
Can I say that?
You just did.
I never realized what I put my mother or wife or girlfriend through. I mean, I'm a nervous wreck. I don't. My son doesn't see it, but inside, and it's not so much he could get hurt. It's just I know all the things that can happen to ruin your day: a flat tire, spinning out, making a mistake, somebody else running into you, and I have the greatest time in the world until he's racing, and once it's over, then it goes back to being fun again. So yeah, I'm a basket case.
That seems about right.
Well, Boris, thank you so much for joining us. We hope that you and Boris Jr. have a lot of good times down the road, and thanks for being on. And also, BMW Marietta, great place to buy your BMW, and every once in a while you can catch Boris in there, right?
Right, I'm here every day.
That's awesome, Boris. Thank you so much for joining us here today on the Speed Traveler Roadshow.
All right, take care. Bye.
Bye. Well, that was Boris Said, world famous race car driver, entrepreneur, and all around great guy. You're listening to the Speed Traveler Roadshow, available on KHTS AM 1220, FM 98.1, your favorite podcast platforms. Of course, you can find us at hometownstations.com. And please message us with any questions, comments that you have. We'd love to hear what you have to say.
And don't forget, Chris, people are more than welcome to go to the Speed Traveler channel on YouTube. You can message us there, leave a comment. Actually, I think the first 10 people that leave comments, we're sending a Speed Traveler t-shirt to right now.
That's absolutely right. So thanks for listening. We'll be back in a moment.
All right. Welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We are on KHTS Radio in Newhall. That's AM 1220 and FM 98.1. We're also available on any of your podcast networks and also on YouTube. You can check out the Speed Traveler directly there. But Chris, we're going to get in to our featured marque now, which today is the BMW, a brand that is near and dear to your heart since you have a BMW race car.
Yeah. We had a weekend this past weekend. We'll get into a little bit later on, but we run a 1995 E36 M3 in the United States Touring Car Series. But honestly, I'd rather talk a little bit more about the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance and also the Bavarian Batmobile.
The Bavarian Batmobile, for those of you who don't know what we're talking about, that was BMW's race car from 1973, I believe, to 75. We saw that car live in person at Riverside Raceway when I guess we were about, 9 years old, 8 years old.
I'm going to go with 3 because, are we really that old?
No.
Cranky old men?
Yeah. But the LA Times Grand Prix was a famous race here in Southern California. It was
For those of you that don't know, the LA Times was a newspaper where the words were actually printed on paper and is delivered by an 8-year-old on a bicycle to your doorstep.
no liability in there. Yeah, they would print it on paper and drop it on your front door. I mean, imagine that.
Yeah,
I feel like
that the Instagram of the day.
But the LA Times I think at the time was owned by the Chandler family. They were big race car people, and they sponsored the Grand Prix out at Riverside Raceway, which was where we both learned to race. And sadly, it's a failing mall right now in Moreno Valley on Highway 60.
Yeah, it is a sad story to touch on that a little bit further. The race car track was there long before there was anything out there. They built the race car track out in the middle of effectively a desert.
1953, I believe.
Yes, that's exactly right. And then homes started moving into the neighborhood, and then of course everyone that lived in those homes started complaining about the noise. So the track got shut down. They turned it into a mall that, like you just said, is subsequently failing miserably.
Yeah, it's a shame. And there were some famous guys involved. There was Les Richter was one of the original owners, along with Bob Hope, which is really pretty cool.
That's right.
So Bob probably did okay. And it's funny you mentioned, we're going to talk about our weekend in Sonoma a little later, but I'm going to remind me to bring up the story about the sound, because the racetracks go in and then homes come later, and then there's a big issue with sound once the homes come in there.
And
so
we did have an issue with that. So
we did. But we're going to talk about that. But we're going to get back real quick to BMW. If you want to buy the street edition of the BMW, the Bavarian Batmobile, they're floating around out there, Chris. We pulled up.
What is it, about $250,000?
At minimum, $250,000 minimum.
Starting at?
Yeah. So, but I mean, if BMW is your thing and you've got the money, this might be something you want to take a look at. The market for classic cars and old race cars, and it went absolutely crazy. And, by far you made more money investing in some classic cars and race cars than you ever could in the stock market.
Right.
So it really is interesting, but, and you can drive them.
Well, I mean, look at what Adam Carolla's done with his collection.
Exactly.
Everyone called him crazy for buying Paul Newman's Porsche, and it immediately went up tenfold in value.
Yeah.
So,
I think he paid $4.4 million. He said he begged, borrowed, and stole to get that money, and it's worth way over $10 million now. So I mean, that is not bad.
Not a bad day.
But back to BMW, you could find the 1975 BMW 3.0 CSL, and you might have to translate the L, which I guess is light in German.
Yeah, Licht. Similar to the 3.0, that car, you can also look at the BMW TI.
Yeah,
2002 Ti.
Yeah, and
TII, and you can get those in really good nick for about $40K.
Yeah,
you have to look and you have to browse. You have to browse deeply, and you always have to check the undercarriage. I mean, fortunately, this era of vehicle is built with really good, lightweight but really strong steel, so they're very durable in that sense if they're well cared for. I mean, a good friend of ours, Doug Stuman, had a 1976, I think it was, 2002 Ti. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful car. Unfortunately, he used that as a daily driver, and that daily driver routine eventually caught up with him, and it got totaled in an accident. Very unfortunate story, but just a classic car, and that is kind of the foundation of the BMW cars we see today. The 3 Series today,
inspired. Yeah, absolutely.
Its motorsports is incredible. The panoramic windows, you're sitting there, it's got great visibility.
Yep.
And that's one of the differences between, say, for example, a BMW 3 Series and a BMW 4 Series. The 3 Series is very much modeled after that chassis style.
Yeah.
So you have great forward and rearward visibility.
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's a good, for about $40,000, you can find a good one. We looked up on Hemmings before we went on this morning, and you can find a great one for $40,000. I mean, it's only going to go up. I mean, the 3.0 CSL, that's a whole nother story. I think the cheapest one we could find was $300,000, and they went up to $600,000, $700,000, $800,000. Unfortunately, I think those days are gone unless you've got some money to invest. But I want to bring up one more BMW that I think is a future collector. There was, of course, the boot that was in around 2000, and that was the Z3. And you know what? I don't
Charlie.
Yeah,
Z.
sorry, the Z3. Those prices have gone absolutely crazy on those cars. But the later version of that car, which is the Z4M from 2006 to 2008, those cars aren't bad. The pricing. We pulled it up again this morning. We actually looked at Car Gurus this morning on that, and you could find a really good one for about 30 grand. Those cars have 330 horsepower. I personally like the Roadster, but it just seems like the coupes are always more valuable in the long run.
Yeah, they really are. And it's, you mentioned the horsepower. It's got that really nice 3.2 liter, 6-cylinder engine in there that really produces quite a bit of torque. So it's a lot of fun to drive. And what I do like about the convertible, the Spider, is that you can change the balance of the car. Like every BMW, pretty much across the board, is really good 50-50 weight balance.
Right.
Whereas and that's true for the convertibles and the removable hardtops as well. But when you put the top down, it shifts some of that weight to the back of the car. So it changes the driving style of the car. Which
that's a great point.
Is really a lot of fun.
Put some weight over the rear wheels. And for guys that race rear-wheel drive race cars, we know that sometimes you need a little extra weight back there.
Yeah, well, that also goes to set up what you like. Do you like a balanced car? Do you like a loose car? Or do you like a tight car? What do you like? But
exactly.
that's a conversation for later in the day.
But if you are in the market, that is, we think a future collector. The Z4M cars at 2006 to 2008, and you can find them, like we said, you can find them for as low as 20,000, with some miles on them. But keep in mind, you want to probably buy it from a private individual. And so you're going to have to do your homework. And we always say that's kind of the fun of buying classic cars.
Right.
Is you find these crazy characters out there, and you've got to dig and dig and dig, and it's like finding a diamond in the rough sometimes.
It really is. You're out there panning for gold, and you're going to get a lot of dirt, but every once in a while you get that nugget, that fine piece of shiny metal in the bottom of your pan.
Yeah, and that, for sure, if you just want to do it the fast way and look on Car Gurus or Hemmings or something like that, you'll find some ones there, and you'll get a sense for what they cost. But
be prepared to pay a premium for that.
I agree. You're going to pay a premium. Otherwise, just dig. Try and find a private owner. Try and find someone that we always look for someone that's had the car on the market for 30 or 60 days, which you generally will say on Auto Trader or on Car Gurus.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point in that generally speaking, you don't want a car, especially of this generation, that's gone through 5-6 different owners. You'd want to be, on the outside, you would like to be the third owner.
Agreed.
If you can be the second owner, even better.
Agreed.
Because obviously it came off the showroom floor, and that's the first owner, whoever takes it off the showroom floor. So the closer you can get to being to the first owner, the better off you are.
Yeah.
You have a much tighter history on that. Do you have anything else to add to the Z4? Because I would like to bring up another point.
Nope,
car.
I'm good. I think we're good on that.
Yeah, you like that? Because we're talking about the Z4. Now I got to correct myself. And that's a great car for the young adult who's looking for something to have fun with. But honestly, if you have kids and you're getting your child their first car, or they're working towards their first car,
right?
I'd like to point out that the E46 is a great platform for a parent to get for their first child, for their child's first car. You can find an E46. It's got basically the same motor that you're talking about in the Z4. It's actually 3.0 in the 330.
The M54, I believe.
M54 motor. That's exactly correct. And you can find those cars in really good nick, even in third, fourth ownership, for about $2,000 to $2,500 for a hardtop. And if you put $2,000 into that, you've got a solid car for under $5,000. And quite frankly, I figure in about 2 years' time, when we're doing the show, that E46 might be the current classic car to look at.
I agree. I think that's a very good point. All right, guys. Well, we are going to take a quick break. Thanks again for joining us on the Speed Traveler Roadshow. It is cars and coffee time, and that was pretty fun. But we're going to come back, and we're going to talk a little bit about racing and motorsports related travel in our last weekend in Sonoma.
Welcome back to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. It's Saturday morning cars and coffee. Our show, the Speed Traveler Roadshow, is available at KHTS AM 1220, FM 98.1. You can also check us out at hometownstations.com and your favorite podcast platforms. Of course, you can always visit us at The Speed Traveler on YouTube and Instagram. And, with that in mind, we've been talking about BMW. BMW is the marque that we've been talking about this whole show, the focus of this show. And anyone out there that has a really cool BMW that they would like to see featured on our Instagram or YouTube channels, we'd love to get a message from you and see what you've got. Of course, if we feature you on one of our platforms, we'll definitely send you out a Speed Traveler t-shirt. Even if you don't have a BMW, we'd love to hear about your car. So please send us your comments, photos, and stories of how you got your car. Wouldn't that be cool? I mean, I'd love to do some more features on how other people have found their cars. But Charlie, we had kind of an exciting weekend.
Well, yeah, we did. We were at the U.S. Touring Car Championship race in Sonoma last weekend. We actually missed the 72nd annual Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance for something different, but sometimes there's scheduling conflicts. Yeah, it was a crazy weekend. I don't know if anybody noticed this morning. I'm sure no one noticed that you weren't on in the first 7 or 8
I didn't
moments.
notice.
But Chris was still trying to get back from Sonoma. It was a rough weekend with Hurricane Hillary in town, and so we had to go ahead and do the first part of the show without Chris. But you made it here within 7 or 8 minutes of the show. So.
Yeah, I mean, considering the journey, it was challenging getting here. Lots of traffic issues to contend with. But the race, we'll talk a little bit about our race. It was
Maybe
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, the BMW did really well. I threw up a quick video of what went on. It's only 7 minutes highlight of the race. And I had a whoopsie moment that ended up costing me the win and ended up punting me back to third place. It was a driver error on my part. I was not driving well. I was really not sharp this weekend, and I'm mad at myself for that. And that's why I didn't drive well. I was mad going into the race.
Yeah.
So don't drive mad.
I mean, isn't that a life lesson for everything? Don't drive mad. But yeah, and my race was equally frustrating. I had issues all weekend in the Honda S2000. We had a electronic power steering fail. And I don't know if you know, Chris, but when those fail, it's not just like a regular old car where the power steering pump goes out and it's a little harder to turn. It is almost impossible to get around the turn. So I went into the carousel at Sonoma Raceway with the power steering failing, and I barely made it around. And then just to add to insult to injury, I got black flagged during the race for going over the sound limit. So that was a bummer, to go up there, spend all that energy and time and then be too loud.
Yeah, that is frustrating. But, the car sounds great. It sounds great.
And to your point earlier, I want to just follow up really quick on that last point. I don't for the life of me understand. Riverside Raceway comes into Moreno Valley. Then homes come 20 years later, and then everyone complains, and then you have to tear the track down. It happens at WeatherTech Laguna Seca all the time.
Yep.
There's a 93 decibel limit there, which is crazy.
Which is nothing.
Yeah. And
that's a dog barking.
And the more $10, $15 million houses that are built around it, the less the decibel level has to go down. So, it's a disappointing fact of racing in these days, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, and but it's change is inevitable, and I guess that's why we're seeing a lot of hybrid technology coming out. But getting to Sonoma was a lot of fun. There's some great roads up there. We actually did a little road trip out to the Vassar family vineyards.
Oh yeah,
V12 Vassar family vineyards, and that was quite an experience. I mean, Vicky really treated us well.
Oh yeah, and if just to backstep just a tiny bit, I think if you haven't been to Sonoma and you haven't brought your car, I mean, that is really the place to go for a car person or a car family. There's all these amazing windy roads. And then towards the end of the day, what we like to do is, some people go there and they booze all day long at the wineries. We like to just go hit one at the end of the day and then find a DD, someone that can drive you home. But yeah, 96 and 97 IndyCar champ Jimmy Vassar, his family owns a winery called Vassar V12 Winery in the Napa area. And his sister Vicky hosted us over the weekend. And what a spectacular place. I mean, I've been to wineries before. I've never been to a winery like that.
Unbelievable. And what's really amazing is they were decimated by fire not too long ago. And they've done an incredible job of rebuilding their facilities, their little tasting room. It's very private. It's not easy to get in there. It's up a winding road. It's tucked in the hills.
Right.
And they basically are on 4 different slopes. Their grapes are grown on 4 different slopes, so they have very different tasting wines available from their white wines to their nice bold red wines.
Oh yeah, I mean, I didn't realize they made a Chardonnay. They make a Chardonnay now. They make a Malbec,
which was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And then they make their V12 500, and they make their 444. I mean, when we say spectacular wines, we're not just doing this because they're our friends. I mean, they are spectacular wines. So.
And that comes from an area, from a region where, especially for you, Charlie, all your favorite wines come from that region. Duckhorn, and a number of others.
Yeah, the Stag's Leap District. We've got Duckhorn there. You've got Ragusa, a little smaller one. You've got Camus. I mean, just great wineries in that area.
Yeah. So it's a great road trip. Basically, what we're talking about is a great road trip getting up there. Like you said, Charlie, it's probably better. We enjoy just doing one winery, hitting some roads, doing some driving, great fun roads, and always have that designated driver.
Yeah.
If you think you're drunk, you're drunk.
You're drunk. And just to add a little more to that, if you're a NASCAR fan, there's a NASCAR race up there every year. There's the NHRA race. So, pick a motorsports weekend. Don't just hang out at the track all weekend, because Sonoma's a place where you're going to want to go check out the area. I mean, the Sonoma Valley and the Napa Valley, I mean, they're just unbelievable. As a matter of fact, just to add a little tip to that, we stayed at a place, we actually stayed at the Best Western downtown Sonoma. And what was nice about that is you could walk to everything. It's a little tiny compact town.
It is. It was a half a block away from the town center, and there's some great restaurants. Can't name them all. There's so many that are so good. And the locals are always out, and they're very inviting, very friendly. Yeah. They always want to pet your dogs and what have you, be your dog's best friend. So it's a great place, a really fun community to visit.
Yeah. So, shoot us a line on the Speed Traveler Instagram or on YouTube. Let us know if you're going. We'll give you some recommendations. One last one I forgot to mention is there is a spectacular resort called Auberge des Soleils in the town of Rutherford, which is on the Silverado Trail. So it's kind of the east side of the Napa Valley. There's no sign. You just kind of have to know it's there, but probably one of the top 25 resorts in the world. I mean, it is absolutely spectacular. And they were so nice to us. You just pull in, they're very welcoming. And we just had a great time. Went in and had a drink. You don't have to go in and have a $500 or $800 dinner. You can go in and have a glass of wine and enjoy it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Like you said, everyone's super friendly, from the valet to the general manager, and everyone in between. Everyone's super, super friendly. And it's a very well-run ship, and they pride themselves on that. So yeah, absolutely visit the Auberge des Soleils. So.
Yeah. You know what? It's a time to talk. We got a few more minutes. We'll talk a little bit of F1. F1 is coming up, the Grand Prix of the Netherlands. Zandvoort. Yeah. How do you say it? Zandvoort. Exactly. It's a beachside circuit. Max Verstappen is going for his 9th win in a row. Pretty amazing.
Red Bull's 13th.
Yeah, going for 13.
So that's pretty amazing as well. And an interesting note about the Zandvoort course is it is one of the tracks. It's the only track with the kind of banking that you might see on a NASCAR facility. There's a turn in there it's much tighter than a NASCAR turn, and it's heavily banked. I think it's 17-degree banking at the top and 13 at the bottom, which is NASCAR level banking. And there are 27 different lines through that turn, and we'll see 28 of them used in this weekend's race. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I can't even imagine what it's going to be like on the ground there. If any of you go to that race, shoot us a line and let us know. You've been to a lot more F1 races in Europe than I have. But the Dutch fans are nuts, and Max is going for his 9th win. What do you think that's going to be like?
It's not a foregone conclusion because anything can happen, and it usually does. I think it's amazing. I love seeing these records being broken. The only drawback to that is it's boring racing at the front because Max is just so dominant. I mean, obviously, Chris Horner, Adrian Newey run an incredibly tight ship. Helmut Marko at the top of the helm there, of course. And Max Verstappen is just so determined. He wants it, and he wants it bad. He's an aggressive and a determined competitor. So if he gets the front, it's all over. I doubt he would make a mistake. But the middle of the pack racing is pretty incredible. I mean, in previous years, Fernando Alonso has just done some amazing passes, Kimi Räikkönen-esque passes at this facility. So I think they're going to get that win.
Yeah.
I think Max is going to get that win. And really, the battle is kind of for that second place.
Yeah, second place. It's between, as you mentioned, Alonso and the Aston Martin, Lewis Hamilton and George Russell and the Mercedes. And you could now throw in McLaren. McLaren's hugely improved.
Vastly improved under the tutelage and guidance of Zach Brown, our good buddy. But you also can't, you don't throw Sergio Perez out with the bathwater because he's had a great year. He's had his ups and downs. But he's a phenomenal driver. So honestly, it's a tight track. It should be an exciting weekend.
Yeah, should be good. All right. We are going to wrap up now. And thank you so much for listening to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We always have a lot of fun here. We always talk cars. We talk classic cars. We talk race cars. And we talk investing in cars. And we talk about road trips that we've taken that we want to share. Sonoma was last week. And we've got some fun ones coming up. And you can catch us on our YouTube channel, which is The Speed Traveler. You can also catch us on YouTube on the KHTS Radio YouTube channel and on KHTS AM 1220 and FM 98.1, and also on your favorite podcast network.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, guys.